Juan Pablo Villasmil is here. He's one of our new young people commenting on what goes on in the world with incredible insight that's disturbing for people as young as Juan is. Hello there, Juan. Thanks for being here.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for the kind words.
Well, it's just ridiculous how insightful you are. And, it's appreciated. It's fun. People really love hearing from young people who don't buy into the pablum of the Soviet-style governance that the Democrats are inflicting on us. So thank you for that. So let's talk about the election. It's Super Tuesday, they call it. It doesn't feel very super to us because we're not really participants in it in Connecticut. But what sensations are you picking up around the country? What observations do you have for us?
Yeah, so today's Super Tuesday, and as you said, it's not very super. Still, 16 states and one territory are going to cast their ballots. And although we know that there are not going to be any big surprises in regards to the two candidates leading their respective races, we know that more than a third of all delegates are set to be awarded tonight actually. And that should give us a lot of insight into what's next. So, for example, in Michigan, the closest competitor, Joe Biden, wasn't even a person. It was actually uncommitted voters protesting against his stances regarding Israel-Gaza. And
isn't that remarkable? I love when the Democrats unleash forces inside their own voting blocks that are so out of control that they reject their own leadership.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big ones because, of course, in Michigan, they were heavily organized and they have the demographics for a protest vote in regard to the Israel conflict to succeed with cities like Dearborn, which is the Muslim capital in the U.S., the highest population per capita there. But maybe they sent the message, and maybe we will see that reciprocate throughout other states in Super Tuesday. So I would say if at least a 5% in some of these blue states votes uncommitted or for another candidate, that probably should be something that Joe Biden should worry about. And then aside from this, I also think there's a lot to be said about Nikki Haley and what's going to happen after Super Tuesday. She's been talking throughout the campaign about not dropping out, waiting for a Super Tuesday surprise. Before that, it was the New Hampshire surprise. Before that, it was the South Carolina surprise. So we're going to see what happens here. Maybe she'll win a state. People are talking about Massachusetts. If she wins a single state, would that mean anything?
I don't think so.
Some people are saying that yes, but I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of things going on. Like some people are talking about whether she could run as a third-party candidate. I see that as improbable. Some people are talking about she could leverage this to try to become Trump's VP. I see that as improbable too. But who knows? We'll see what happens.
To me, this what makes this kind of a down day despite the name Super Tuesday, it's a dull Tuesday. They'll have to rename it because the real questions remain unanswered. The question wasn't is Joe Biden going to win the Democratic nomination? The question was, are Democrats really going to stick with this hobbled horse after their convention and into the general election? They're putting themselves in grave danger by allowing Joe Biden to carry that kind of responsibility. He's not a workhorse anymore. He can't pull that load. And the question on the Republican side is what happens moving forward with Donald Trump? Is Donald Trump going to beat the rap on the criminal prosecutions and be able to run a candidacy that is functional? And I think he's beating them. I think he's beating the rap. So if you look at the two sides, you look at Donald Trump, it's shaping up well for him compared to what some of the options were. And for Joe Biden, it's looking awful because it seems like on a daily basis you can you can map his cognitive and physical decline. What are your thoughts on that, Juan Pablo?
Yes, I actually wrote an article for The Telegraph, which was published Friday, about how age affects Joe Biden more than Trump. And this is, for me, it was a bit funny, but I think the Democrats have been trying to fixate on portraying Trump as someone who has Alzheimer's as well. They've been trying to portray Trump as someone who has a memory issue too. But the truth is that, if you're a normal person and you watch TV, you know who the guy with the memory issue is. Trump has a lot of problems, so I would rather say, if I were a Democratic strategist, I would rather portray Trump as a schizophrenic than as someone with Alzheimer's. And I think that's a mistake Democrats are making, trying to attack Trump for the same defects that Joe Biden has as a candidate. And what we will see this Super Tuesday, and I think it's important, we will see if there's really an enthusiasm gap. Because people always talk about how modern elections are all about enthusiasm. And if the progressive base of the Democratic Party rejects Joe Biden by voting uncommitted or maybe by not showing up en masse, then that could send a message that will make a lot of Trump people happy. At the same time, it will be interesting to see if something similar happens in the Trump camp. Would there be some lack of enthusiasm? It doesn't seem like that. If you look at what's going on in the country right now, it seems like the conditions have been created so that enthusiasm is on Trump's side. And if that trend continues and if it's reflected on Super Tuesday, I think the Joe Biden campaign will have to sound some alarms and think strategy.
I don't know if it lines up quite the way you suggest. First off, on the age issue, the problem with trying to do parity between Biden's foibles and flaws as a candidate because of his age versus Trump's, in our intuitive sense, what we see with Joe Biden is somebody who's too old and over the hill to be carrying a big responsibility in his career. Like, without any hostility or bad feelings towards Joe, just looking at him as a human being, this is a human being who, when you see him shuffling along, you worry that there might be some ants on the floor who would trip him and make him fall. You get the feeling like he should be sitting around the old age home, sipping something in the afternoon with his fellow residents who he's chatting with, and nobody can hear each other. Like, that's what he looks like. That's what he feels like. He feels like a man in decline who, if you just listen to a cut of him talking 4 years ago or 2 years ago or a year ago compared to now, you hear something dramatically different. I'm not clear on his cognitive abilities, because it is possible that you can have short-term memory issues that make you seem quite out of it. But the overall gestalt that he communicates is somebody who's not up to the job. And that job includes being a great communicator who can sell issues and sell your ability to lead. And he can't sell anything. Donald Trump might have some memory problems, but he can sell. He's still invigorated and excited and energetic and communicates power. And if you separate those qualities from the men and just say, do you want the guy who seems like he could fall over if the extension cord is there on the grass as he's walking over to the helicopter, that's not the kind of vibe you want a president to communicate. So that's where I am on the age thing. It's just a real problem. I think a disqualifier for Joe Biden, and it's not for Donald Trump. I forget what else you were saying, but go ahead, Juan.
Yes, I definitely think you have a really good point. The way I see it is that all too often when we talk about elections, we like to talk about the who you rather drink a beer with question. Forget that question. Scratch it. Like that. Forget that question in this election. Likability is not an issue. Most like Trump, and most people don't really like Biden. This election will be one in which a new question will take precedence. And I think this is the question that everyone should be asking themselves. And the question is, if you had a kid and you needed to go out and you're finding a babysitter, who would you rather pick, Donald Trump or Joe Biden? And it sounds kind of silly, but I think it's
no, that's very clarifying. I like that one. I think that's clever.
Yeah, I think it's the right question because it's really an election not about likability, but about thinness, especially when you see issues like immigration take the forefront. I was looking at a Gallup poll, which conveniently it was published when Donald Trump and Joe Biden visited the southern border. And in the poll, 28% of Americans are prioritizing immigration as their issue.
Which is really a stunning. That's without them being given a checklist of issues to be concerned about, and people just say they're concerned about the border, and that's pretty stunning.
Yeah, and I think that competency, being mentally fit, not necessarily the policies, are something that people think about when they see a challenge like the one we're facing in the southern border, when they see foreign policy, when they see all these things. Questions about philosophical doctrines and differentiation policy-wise matter much less. So I could actually see if the mental fitness question continues to be a central part of the campaign, of the Trump campaign specifically, as they weaponize Biden's age, I could definitely see that making a lot of independents vote for Trump, even if they're not really that conservative, just based on a simple fitness question.
Let me run one idea by you and get your reaction to it. We're talking to Juan Pablo Villasmil. He is a young man. He is a writer and political observer, and as you can tell, very thoughtful and smart guy for in his 20s. So I assume that's what your age is. Am I accurate with that?
No,
Juan?
I'm 12.
You're 12. Oh, okay. You're even smarter than I thought and more surprising. So we've got a boy wonder here. So I believe that the election will be about something that we cannot put our finger on right now. I believe that this is March, beginning of March, first week of March. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 8 months until Election Day. We can't begin to imagine the disasters that are going to occur and the issues that are going to pop up demanding the attention of these candidates. And those issues may exacerbate the problems of Joe Biden, or they may exacerbate the weaknesses of Donald Trump.
Yeah,
your reaction,
definitely.
please.
I think that, so of course, we don't really know what's going to happen in the next 8 months. What we do know is what the candidates will try to make happen. And I think that on the Trump camp, they're going to try really hard to avoid some of the controversial issues, i.e. abortion, and they're going to stick to immigration, which is currently a political priority as displayed in this Gallup poll. And if it stays that way, it's an absolute winner issue for Donald Trump. So I hope, this is my bias talking, I hope immigration continues to be something that Americans are worried about. And I hope that when Americans think about immigration, they think negatively about Joe Biden. And I think so far the Trump campaign is succeeding in this point. And if they continue to fixate on this and on the fitness question, it will actually be, I think, a really good election for the president, for the former president, and a really bad one for the Joe Biden.
All right, Juan, good dodge on that question. Nicely done. And it's great talking with you. Wonderful conversation. I appreciate it. If you want to check out Juan's stuff, search Juan Villasmil, Villasmil. Did I spell that right?
Yeah, perfect.
How about me? That was not right off the top of my head. I read it off the page. Juan Pablo, appreciate you being here. We'll talk to you next week.